There is a silent law that governs every human relationship. People rarely treat you according to your intentions. They treat you according to what they believe they can get away with. Respect is not requested. It is enforced through behavior. One of the greatest illusions people believe is that respect is something you can earn simply by being kind, patient, or understanding. From childhood, we are taught that if we treat others well, they will naturally return the favor. But the real world operates according to a far different set of rules. Human beings do not always respond to kindness with respect. More often, they respond by observing what your behavior allows. They study your reactions, your boundaries, and your willingness to tolerate uncomfortable situations. Before they decide how to treat you, they silently ask themselves one question: what happens if I cross this person's line? If the answer is nothing, then your words lose their value. Your boundaries become invisible, and little by little, your respect begins to disappear. This process rarely happens overnight. It begins with small moments that most people ignore. Someone interrupts you while you are speaking. A friend repeatedly cancels plans at the last minute. A coworker takes credit for your effort. Someone jokes about you in front of others, pretending it is harmless. Each incident seems too insignificant to confront. You tell yourself that it is better to avoid conflict, that remaining silent makes you the bigger person. Yet every moment of silence teaches people something about you. It tells them that your standards can be bent without consequence. People are experts at recognizing patterns. They pay far less attention to what you say than to what you consistently do. You may claim that you value yourself, but if your actions repeatedly communicate that you accept disrespect, your behavior becomes the truth. Over time, others begin treating you according to the standards you demonstrate, not the standards you announce. This is why behavior has greater authority than words. Anyone can demand respect. Anyone can say they deserve better treatment. But very few people are willing to act when those words are tested. Action always carries more psychological weight than explanation. A single decision to calmly enforce a boundary often changes people's perception more than 100 emotional conversations ever could. Notice how individuals with quiet authority rarely need to raise their voices. They do not constantly remind others of their importance. They are not obsessed with proving themselves. Instead, they have developed a consistent pattern of behavior that leaves no room for confusion. When someone crosses a boundary, they respond without anger, without drama, without hesitation. Their reaction is measured, but it is also firm. Because their behavior never contradicts their principles, people quickly understand that disrespect comes with consequences. The lesson is simple but uncomfortable. Respect is never secured by asking for it. It is secured when your actions consistently communicate that your dignity is not open for negotiation. People test boundaries before they offer respect. Human nature has an instinct that operates beneath conscious thought. Before people decide how much respect they will give you, they first try to discover where your limits exist. This is rarely a deliberate act of cruelty. Instead, it is a psychological process that unfolds in almost every relationship. Whether in friendships, workplaces, families, or social circles, people quietly observe how you react under pressure. They notice whether you tolerate interruptions, broken promises, dismissive remarks, or unfair treatment. Each interaction becomes a small experiment, revealing how much they can demand from you before you finally say no. In many cases, respect is not granted first. It is measured against the strength of your boundaries. These tests often begin so subtly that they are easy to dismiss. Someone speaks over you during a conversation and never apologizes. A colleague repeatedly expects you to handle responsibilities that belong to them. A friend contacts you only when they need a favor but disappears when you need support. Someone makes a sarcastic remark at your expense and immediately hides behind the phrase, "I was only joking." None of these actions appear serious on their own, which is exactly why they are so effective. They are designed to reveal whether you will protect your own standards or quietly accept behavior that diminishes your value. Most people respond by avoiding discomfort. They convince themselves that speaking up will create unnecessary conflict or make them appear difficult. They choose temporary peace instead of lasting respect. Yet every time a boundary is ignored without consequence, another invisible line is erased. What began as a small act of disrespect slowly becomes accepted behavior because people naturally repeat what has already been permitted. Strong boundaries do not require aggression or emotional outbursts. In fact, the most respected individuals are often the calmest. They do not argue endlessly or seek revenge. Instead, they communicate through consistency. If someone repeatedly ignores their standards, they reduce access, withdraw unnecessary attention, or simply refuse to continue rewarding disrespectful behavior. Their response is quiet but unmistakable. Others quickly recognize that certain actions lead to certain consequences. Over time, this consistency creates a powerful reputation. People stop testing those whose boundaries never change because the outcome is already predictable. They understand that respect is not optional but expected. The greatest mistake is believing that boundaries push people away. In reality, clear boundaries teach others exactly how to treat you, and those who genuinely value your presence will respect them without resentment. Emotional reactions weaken authority. The moment you lose control of your emotions, you often surrender control of the situation. This is one of the oldest and most reliable principles of human psychology. Most people believe that showing anger proves strength, that raising their voice demonstrates confidence, or that an emotional outburst forces others to take them seriously. In reality, the opposite is usually true. When your emotions become predictable, they become a tool that others can use against you. A person who knows exactly how to provoke you no longer fears your response. They expect it. They prepare for it. And in many cases, they intentionally create situations that cause you to react. Knowing that your loss of composure shifts the balance of power in their favor, people pay close attention to emotional patterns. If every criticism immediately makes you defensive, they recognize your insecurity. If every disagreement causes visible frustration, they learn where your patience ends. If every insult receives an instant response, they discover that controlling your emotions requires only a few carefully chosen words. Without realizing it, you have handed them the map to your weaknesses. The more easily your emotions are manipulated, the less authority you appear to possess. True authority is not measured by how loudly someone reacts. It is measured by how calmly they respond. A person who remains composed under pressure communicates something powerful without speaking. They reveal that their decisions are guided by discipline rather than impulse. This uncertainty creates caution in the minds of others. When people cannot predict whether you will respond immediately, ignore the situation, or address it at a time of your own choosing, they become far more careful in how they approach you. Emotional restraint creates psychological distance, and that distance often commands more respect than open confrontation ever could. This does not mean suppressing every feeling or pretending that disrespect never affects you. Emotions are natural, but allowing them to dictate every decision is costly. The strongest individuals experience anger, disappointment, and frustration just like everyone else. The difference is that they refuse to let those emotions become public weapons for others to exploit. They pause before responding. They observe before speaking. They understand that every unnecessary reaction reveals information, while every moment of self-control preserves influence. History repeatedly shows that those who mastered themselves often mastered others as well. Calmness unsettles impulsive people because it denies them the satisfaction of seeing their actions create chaos. A composed presence forces others to question their own behavior, while emotional instability invites further challenges. The individual who controls their emotions keeps control of their image, their reputation, and ultimately the respect that follows both. Silence and unpredictability create psychological power. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they must constantly explain themselves. They feel obligated to answer every accusation, defend every decision, and respond to every insult. Yet the more you explain yourself, the more opportunities you give others to question, challenge, or manipulate your position. Silence interrupts this pattern. It forces people to face uncertainty, and uncertainty is something the human mind naturally struggles to tolerate. When others cannot easily predict your thoughts or your next move, they become more cautious in their actions. Predictable people are easy to influence because everyone knows exactly how they will react. Unpredictable people, however, create psychological distance. Their calm silence makes others think twice before making assumptions or testing boundaries. This does not mean becoming mysterious for the sake of appearance or playing unnecessary games. It means refusing to react impulsively or reveal every emotion the moment it appears. A thoughtful pause often carries more authority than an immediate response. People begin to realize that your decisions are made with intention rather than emotion. Over time, this quiet restraint builds an image of confidence and self-control, making others far more careful about how they speak to you and how they choose to treat you. Consequences teach others how to treat you. Every action people repeat is shaped by the consequences that follow it. This principle governs not only success and failure, but also the way others behave towards you. If someone disrespects you and nothing changes, they quietly learn that such behavior carries no cost. Over time, what was once an isolated incident becomes a habit. They are not simply responding to your words, they are responding to the standards your actions enforce. This is why consequences matter more than warnings. A boundary that is never defended is merely a suggestion. Consequences do not require anger, revenge, or dramatic confrontation. Often the most effective response is calm and deliberate. You may reduce your availability, withdraw your trust, decline future opportunities to help, or distance yourself from those who repeatedly ignore your standards. These actions communicate far more than emotional arguments ever could. They demonstrate that respect is the price of continued access to your time, energy, and attention. When people recognize that every choice has a predictable outcome, they naturally adjust their behavior. Those who value your presence will become more considerate, while those who only benefited from your tolerance may leave. Either result strengthens your position because it ensures that your relationships are built on mutual respect rather than unchecked familiarity.